Hey, Kirby. Hey, Kirby.
Hey there, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
All right. You having
Oh,
fun so far?
yeah, it's interesting, this whole volunteer thing. Just a lot of logistics goes into it. So it's neat to see the behind the scenes on it. How about you? Is this your first session?
It is my first session. I normally have been other years have been much more engaged, and this year it's like, oh yeah, all right, I'm gonna do that, and we'll see what happens. So
Awesome. Good. Well, it looks like you got great energy. I just want to run one big thing by you. You may or may not have seen the email I just sent to you. So typically I would be on with you the whole time.
yeah,
The headquarters volunteer team reached out to me and said, hey, we're short on volunteers. Could you take an extra session? The only way that I can do that, Kirby, is if I drop off this one early. They said, hey, not to worry. You just make Kirby a host, which let me do that right now.
okay, cool.
I'm going to make you a co-host so that you and I can both do the same things.
Yeah.
That way, by the way, my name is Mark.
Yep, good to meet you. I did get your email a couple minutes ago, so yeah.
You did. Okay, great.
So that all makes sense. No issues.
Okay, good. So when we get a little closer here, we'll get this thing going here.
All right.
Let me see. Do you have any questions?
I don't think so. I'm just this yeah. This is something I've done for for Commons on Champa, and usually we have like 6 people in the room, so it'll be a little interesting to be like, okay, because I want to keep it engaged, but at the same time I know it's not going to be like, so anyway, all good.
Okay, one second. I'm typing something to the team here. Okay. It looks like we could already be streaming right now, Kirby, so I just want you to be aware of that.
All good.
Yep. I think we are streaming right now on the YouTube link, wherever they put those. Okay, we are live streaming right now.
Cool.
We've got other folks are going to be, I can see the waiting room here. I don't know if you want to let them in 2 minutes before or whenever.
Yeah, let's do a couple minutes. Yeah.
And so here's what's going to happen. I'm going to cast the video that's on my screen here. Okay. It is the intro video, and usually there's an intro video with everyone. This is for the people track, and this is the short video. And Kirby, it's 4 minutes and 19 seconds.
Okay.
It starts out with Eric Matisek giving an opening welcome, and then it goes into some more information. Once that's done, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. By the way, I'm going to be off of the video probably here because it's all about you, not about me. So I'm just going to at that point say, you're good to go. Or actually, we don't even need that. You can just jump right in when the video's done. Would you like that?
Okay. Great. All right. Sure.
Excellent. Okay. You're looking good. You and I both have the black undershirt here thing going.
There you go. Adds a little flair, right?
I like it. Yeah, that's right. A little personality there.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to turn off my video. So you can't see me here, but I'm still here. And then
Cool.
again, I'll cast this video.
And then, like you said, you'll just drop off as you do. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll probably wait 10 minutes or something because I want to make sure that you aren't experiencing any troubles.
Okay.
But then I'll just be gone. I'm not going to announce it. I'm just going to drop off. And because you're the co-host, that won't be a problem. You'll still be running.
Okay, cool. And then at the very end, I hit the leave or, end for all or whatever the deal is. Yeah.
End for all. That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Do I have
And
to stop the recording? Because I see I got that up there too.
no, I would probably end for all because then everything will stop. You don't
Okay.
have to hit any other buttons other than end for all.
Okay, cool.
And then, if you don't want to start right on the hour, if you say, gosh, we've only got 6 people here, or 10 people or 20 people, you want to wait for some more. We could wait to start this video till, 1 minute after, 2 minutes after. It's up to you.
Yeah, let's do 2 minutes. Let's do 3:02. When it hits 3:02, why don't you pop that and yeah.
Perfect. Then I'll go ahead and make that announcement for the people that are here.
Okay. I'm gonna let some folks in here.
Go right ahead. That'd be great. Great. All right, welcome everyone. Looks like the audio is going to be coming on here shortly. Welcome everyone. We'll get started here in just a couple of minutes. We're going to wait for attendees who are just coming online, coming into the meeting right now. This is Mark from Denver Startup Week. Thanks everyone for joining us. I know we're at the top of the hour. We're going to give it just another minute and a half here for others to join in before we get started. We'll be kicking this off just here shortly. Just another quick welcome to everyone. Thanks for joining. We're going to give it just about another minute here, and then we're going to get things kicked off. All right, everyone, we're ready to get this kicked off. This is Mark from Denver Startup Week. I'm going to go ahead and play a quick video for us, and then we'll turn it over to Kirby for the rest of the webinar here.
Hello, I'm Eric Matisek, co-chair of Denver Startup Week. Last year, we were able to bring the global audience together for Denver Startup Week, and this year, we're excited to welcome that global audience back as we celebrate and showcase the best of entrepreneurship that the Denver ecosystem in Colorado has to offer, in Denver and beyond. There are lots to explore this week, but most importantly, we're excited that you're joining us. We have nearly 50 sponsor companies who contribute to make Denver Startup Week possible. Let's show our love for these companies today and all week long. Thanks to our headquarters and title sponsor, Amazon, and our title sponsors whose leadership makes this week come to life, Capital One Cafe, the Downtown Denver Partnership, Fluid Truck, Hotel Engine, and WeWork, and our track sponsors who've made all the great content you're hearing today possible, which includes our founder track sponsor, Kickstart, our growth track sponsor, Friday Health Plans, developer track sponsor, Quizlet, product track sponsor, Palantir, design track sponsor, Battery 621 and the Public Works, people track sponsor, Exactly, and the spotlight event sponsor, Strat Labs. Our headline event sponsors are bringing this excitement to the entire week. Thank you to B-Side Fund, Colorado Public Radio, Comcast, Coors Brewing Company, Denver Pavilions, Entrepreneurship at the University of Denver, Gusto, JP Morgan Chase, Method, Moss Adams, Pi Insurance, Promontory Mortgage Path, Red Bull Basement, Southwest, Tattered Cover, and the VF Venture Foundry. Finally, thank you to our sponsors and member sponsors who are listed on the screen, and thank you for your support of Denver Startup Week. Now, let's get to it.
Yeah.
Hey boss, Mountain West Q2 forecast, 2.3 million.
Nice. Are you kidding me? Come on.
Ugh, another one.
Welcome to Denver Startup Week. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Emma. We are the People Track co-chairs and members of the Denver Startup Week Organizing Committee.
Thank you for joining us for the 10th anniversary of Denver Startup Week. At Denver Startup Week, we strive to make all of our sessions a space where attendees can connect, learn, and grow, regardless of age, gender identity, gender expression, race, ability, or sexual orientation.
A special thank you to our sponsors for their support in helping us to keep Denver Startup Week free and accessible for all, especially our People Track sponsor, Exactly.
On that note, please enjoy the session and the entire Denver Startup Week.
All right, Kirby, turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. Greetings, everybody. Looks like we got about 20-ish folks on the line, and so this is great. This is, in case you just want to make sure you're in the right spot, this is from Gray to Great, work for yourself at 50 plus, and it is really designated, focused on folks who have some living behind them, have some experience under their belt, have some, good things to go forward with, and perhaps haven't explored independence, working for yourself, etc. And so these are some things to really focus on. It's a program by that has been, let me share my screen right now. So I will make this some interactive, oops. Okay. Interactive, but we will be looking through some of this because as I say, from gray to great, work for yourself at 50 plus. And this is, there you go. There you go. Okay. Okay, so this is based on a AARP Foundation program, and there's a link there on the bottom right-hand corner where this guidebook that they put out, Work for Yourself at 50 plus. They do have an online version. You can download it there. And as I say, what we're going to do today is kind of talk about, hey, so perhaps you are in the market to work for yourself for the first time. Maybe this is because of by choice. Maybe you've left the workforce by choice. Perhaps it wasn't your choice, but you are kind of figuring things out, and that happens, and that's great. And the AARP Foundation, being that they are focused on working to end senior poverty and really help people over 50 achieve and succeed, they put this together. And so it's got a few different steps in it, and ideally this is a workshop that is done with not as many people. So we will work for some of the engaged part, and we'll try and get you going and help you or have you join in the conversation and the interaction here. But it may not take, we initially said this will be 2.5 hours. Not sure it'll take the full 2.5, which usually people are okay with that. But really, we do want to kind of share some things and share with you. And so just a few ground rules that if we do volunteer, we're respectful, and we share openly and listen openly and share modestly, and avoid self-promotion, and just really kind of keep it for the entire group. So I think those are pretty understandable ground rules for all of us to follow as we kind of work together. So through this 5 different steps, which you see there, and then some taking action steps and some resources. And if you have any questions at any point, do feel free to just raise your hand, and I will give a shout out, and we'll probably do a combination of the chat. Where's my chat? Where's my chat? There it is. Okay, so we will have the chat going too. So certainly please make use of that with questions and input and all of the above. So, okay, so I wanted to first start with a story. About 9 months ago, I needed to get a signature guarantee. And instead of running off to the credit union or bank, I said, you know, I'm going to see who can do this. What kind of people can help me with, what kind of locally based businesses can I support by getting my signature guarantee? So ran a quick search and came across Denver Notary Services. And Mr. Martez Johnson, as it says, he's a veteran, minority owned business. He's a veteran, and he came to my office and said, yes, you know, obviously talked to him, and he came to my office to do the signature guarantee. And he looked like he'd been around a little bit, like many of us, I believe. And so I got curious, and I started to ask him some questions, talk to him about his business. And it turned out he had worked for the city of Denver for nearly 30 years, and in a variety of positions, including some design work at DIA, pre-construction mess. And so he had a full pension, and he started to say, I'm done working for the city. I've worked there long enough and put in a lot of time. What else can I do? I'm interested in doing more than that. So he looked into becoming a notary and looked into getting the required certification and those bits. And he formed this business, got the certification, formed this business, and he's killing it. And yes, it's a modest business. It's not it's not something that, he's gonna, go public with or get acquired or whatever, but it's a great little, it's a great, needed service by people. And a big part of his business, this offering, is to come to your place and do the notarization. And then that apostille, I believe, is the specific certification you need to have for international shipments, and that's quite unique. So he did step up and actually get that additional certification, which was quite beneficial as well, because not a lot of people do that. So he's got someone working with him now too. So he took this idea and he worked for the city, hadn't really thought about being his own boss, working for himself. And when he started to look around and said, this looks like a type of business that interests me, jumped into it and is doing well. So it's definitely something that is out there and can happen. And there's some things to look out for, to think about, to kind of think through, perhaps, hopefully before you make the jump. But if you've made the jump and you're kind of weighing doing your own thing, there's some things definitely to look for that we're going to cover today. So that's where we're at. And then just the last point with Martez is he, again, it's not some business that he's going to grow incredibly. And I mean, he might form a service, especially with his online version, to go bigger and broader. But to start, he's just doing really well and he's happy. He's making his own schedule. So those things are part of the deal, right? So with that, quick poll around the room, and you can throw in any if you prefer, if you'd like, if you want to put your response in the chat, that'd be fine. If not, you just want to kind of get you in the mindset here. Oh, nice. I've considered entrepreneurs cool, crazy, smart, all of the above, none of the above. Okay, so it depends on the day, right, folks? So it's kind of a the business environment today is definitely about entrepreneurship being cool, as Julie chimed in too, and that's actually where the coverage is, right? That's where the stories, the news media, etc. That's what they look for. They look for the hot kid who dropped out of college, who started something, and now he's 25 and he just sold his business and he doesn't know what to do. But the reality is there are a lot of businesses that start with people, I believe the average age is in the low 40s, that start business. And there are a lot of people who start business after 50, and kind of along the lines of, we've lived a certain amount of life and we've kind of tired of what we're doing and we want to do something else, but we want to find something that's rewarding personally and rewarding financially as well. So there are a lot of options to that. And Jason was in with smart and cool, Fran with inspiring. So inspiring, a different one. Yes, that's definitely good in terms of some of those stories are inspiring, and to make sure that you're inspired in the right way and not say darn kids, but say, hey, we can do this too. We got this too. And just a quick aside, my background is I started a magazine and ran a magazine back in the 90s. And I have a journalism background from years ago, and started a magazine back in the 90s, and it went for 5 years. And then I decided to let it go. And then in 2000, I started my own consulting firm doing messaging and communications for corporations with a focus on the financial world. And so I've been doing that about 21 years on my own. So a lot of juggle on my own. And just in the last 5-6 years, I've really focused on turning around and saying, how can I help entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, build up their knowledge and perhaps get into this, and what do they need to know, and how can they do it smart, right? Because ultimately 50 plus, we got a lot of time left, but at the same time, we don't want to mess around with abject failure, right? We want to get some things going and get them rolling, and and again, get to that rewarding spot financially and personally and professionally. So so it's been about 5-6 years that I've been focusing on the entrepreneur space too. Done some work with Commons on Champa, leading some courses, including this formal AARP, Work for Yourself 50 plus, and then this kind of modified version for Denver Startup Week today. Scott chiming in with autonomous and multi-dimensional. Very nice. That's entrepreneurs. I like that. The autonomous is definitely part of it, where, you know, number one thing I've always said is flexibility, and multi-dimensional, you can take it where you want to take it, as long as it pays the bills, as long as it's a good option in terms of where to take a business. Always good to be multi-dimensional, and that's what makes it fun too, right? And Greg, good point with visionary, where it's you know, we can build on that knowledge we've built up. And hey, if you're under 50 on this webinar, great. You'll learn stuff too. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just might allude more to the folks who have a little more life experience built up. So given that, explore your options. This is step one, and kind of that first thing. So what does working for yourself mean? And as explained here, as diagrammed here, you know, there's a lot of different alternatives here. It could be a sole proprietor or day laborer type of person who just, you know, does piecework, does things on their own. Also gig workers, consultants being usually a little more involved, self-employed workers, contract workers, 1099, and really a lot of these overlap. They have them as separate boxes, but it's really quite overlap. And you know, because 1099 workers are gig workers, are small firms and freelancers, on-call workers, sole proprietors usually. So it's that's kind of the broad landscape of the self-employed workforce. So next up, this is straight out of the book, and I'm going to give you a couple minutes, and then we'll come to the screen and see if anyone kind of wants to share on what they saw, or what surprised you, right? So quick little checklist on self-employment checklist. What are the advantages? What are challenges? And I'll give you a couple minutes to go through this, and then as we come back to the group, I'll see if anyone wants to share what surprised them in this list. So 2 minutes, fill it out, go. Okay, about 30 more seconds to whip through this worksheet. And then, like I say, we'll look for 2 or 3 volunteers to kind of pipe up and say, hey, this really surprised me, or this was something I hadn't thought about. Real quick, if you just joined us, this is, I guess I shouldn't have turned this off, should I? Sorry. Let's give you another minute then, since I just turned it back on. Okay, let's see who wants to share. Who went through that and was surprised by something they found? All right, generally we're advantages, and you can chime in on the chat space. Oops, wrong note. What's the next one? Okay, in the chat, more advantages, more disadvantages. How did those kind of shake out? If you want to just insert in the chat. Oh, looks like Fran would like to. Yes, Fran.
Great. Hi, thanks everyone. Hi, and thanks for doing this, Kirby. So for me, as I was looking through the list, all the advantages had a check mark. I've been in corporate America for a lot of years, and good, bad, all the above. But I'm really finding that working for myself appeals to me, as far as then I get to dictate what I do and how I do it. I actually do life and business coaching, as well as HR and employee relations, but I really like the life coaching part. So the disadvantages part of it is, yeah, I've got to do my own marketing. It's unstructured. It's what if people don't pay me? What and it's all the things that I discovered before, because I did try this and did it about 10 years ago, and I really enjoyed it. I stopped it for a while just because my corporate job got so big, I just couldn't, do both. It was too much energy. So now, though, I'd like to integrate a little bit more of that back in and do workshops and retreats. But I'm just, it's the scariness of the benefits and not having the benefits, those kinds of things. So anything you can share that would be helpful, I am open ears.
Benefits, health insurance.
Yeah, benefits, health insurance, but also what do you do with the fear? I know you can use fear as energy to work for you and so on, but that's what keeps me away from it. And sitting, and just to give you an example, sitting in the startup week in some of the seminars and hearing other people are doing life coaching, which is what I've been doing as well too, but doing it in a corporate setting, around leadership coaching, hearing them saying they're, life coaches and that kind of thing. I noticed a pang of jealousy today, going, how come them, not me? And so then I saw your seminar and I thought, you know what, maybe we should entertain this.
Yeah. All right, good. Well, thanks for coming and thanks for sharing, Fran. I appreciate that there are, a lot of advantages, and then there are a lot of unknowns, a lot of disadvantages. And to be fair, health insurance, pain in the ass. I'll just say it right here, pain in the butt. And it's been a long time that I've had to figure that out, but the benefits outweigh that downside, right? So thanks for sharing. And it looks like Diane also chimed in, not surprised, but felt the advantages outweighed the disadvantages. And so that's kind of that's a good way to look at this, quiz, this worksheet, to really kind of say, hey, these are things I need to think about. Do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? And also, as Fran was saying, do my fears around the disadvantages, are they, can I conquer them? Can I get through them? Can I make peace with them in a sense? So that's that exercise in terms of really starting to kind of think that through. The next one goes to your disposition. Okay, so this is where you really be honest with yourself and say, if I do this, I need to make sure that, like number 3, am I self-motivated? Can I kick myself in the butt when I have to? Can I, and again, since we've all been around for a while, you have a good handle on that, right? Like, if you're self-motivated. The flip side is, perhaps you've been in a role where motivation hasn't been self-motivation hasn't been as valuable, hasn't been required, hasn't been needed. And so it's a good look inside yourself and say, yeah, I can do that. So I'll give you a second here to go through this, and again, similarly, we'll see if anyone anything surprised, or if anyone wants to share on any of these. But there are two I like to add. One is, can I sell? Because no matter what you do in life, in your career, I mean, we all know this from our jobs. If we think about it, we end up selling in a variety of ways. It could be selling proposals to bosses. It could be selling products to customers and prospects. It could be selling, HR benefit, HR solutions within internally, internal audience. So there's a lot of that. But when it comes to being independent, it's on you to do the selling. And so that's one I like to throw in here. Can I sell? And then the other one is 2 a.m. test. If it's 2 a.m. and I've got to do something at 9 a.m., whether it's a presentation, whether it's delivering whether it's delivering a deliverable, whether it's really whatever that 9 a.m. time is, and it's 2 a.m. and are you able to keep doing it? Or do you make that happen? And it's can you make that happen? So it's that's I like that one. I came up with myself at 2 a.m. one day, one morning years ago, and I said, do I really want to be doing this? And it kind of goes to self-motivation, but it also goes to feeling rewarded and what you're doing. So I'm going to show up here for 2 minutes and let you kind of go through this and see on the disposition. And then again, we'll see if anyone wants to share. And thank you, Michael. Can you sell? I ask people that one all the time. And if they don't know, I say, okay, all right, you're going to have to. So anyway, 2 minutes. All right, let's share. Jason in the chat shared that corporate culture, because it can be so caustic and stressful, actually tends to reduce the value of healthcare benefits, which is a very good point. Thank you for making sure we all remember that. Good stuff. So, anyone, any of those give anyone pause, it's again, these are the types of things just to be aware of and really kind of look at yourself and say, are these the types of things that I can deal with? And some of them, if it's no, that's okay, or not sure, that's okay, as long as you know it's there and know that, you may have to figure out a way around it. Scott, income up and down is a big barrier. Yeah, that's definitely something that you have to get used to. And there's approaches that help smooth that out, which I can get into after a while if you remind me. And but that's definitely one, the up and down income. Who else? Anyone else want to share either screen or in text? Income, daily routine, handling risk. Yep. And it's those are all, and a lot of it is change, right? It's if you are accustomed to a regular paycheck, if you're accustomed to, you know, that regular routine of going to work, going to the workplace, even if it's remote, right? Like saying, okay, I'm going to be available for, you know, meetings from, you know, 8:30 to 5, and that's still routine, even if it's remote within a house, within your home or wherever. And risk becomes one of those elements that it does soften over time. And the way to think of that is, how much risk do you have working for an employer, right? If your paycheck and your benefits are all reliant on one source, isn't that a bit risky? And so that's the risk actually kind of smooths out. And when you work for yourself, ideally, frequently you have multiple customers, which kind of help mitigate some of that risk, at least on the income side. And there's and that's the story I tell myself, because sometimes that's got to happen. But it's definitely one that if you're aware of it, then you figure out, how can I manage this? Let's see. Not sure on some becomes part of the risk. Yeah. And the risk, definitely jumping off on your own, Fran, that's definitely part of the risk. As you said, you tried it once and you know, it got a bit much to balance. So, you know, making that full-time leap, that full-on leap, and we'll get in a little bit into what else you can do a little bit later in terms of kind of helping mitigate that. Let's see, I think something that is big is, can you prioritize? D, I'm not sure. D, if you can clarify, that'd be great. I'm not totally sure on your point. Greg, experienced many of these working a small business for someone else. True. So, you know, if you start to say, can I do this for myself? Some of it's very familiar. And so certainly things you figured out how to navigate those with an employer, whether they're small, and some for large too, but definitely can do that. So let's see, can individuals prioritize? If you're used to having it laid out, can you do it now for yourself? Prioritization is a great tool for that, right? Where the things, you know, thanks for clarifying, D, I appreciate that follow up. The things you do know and you do know you can handle don't feel as risky. Yes, those are the things you start to say, okay, this is where I'm going to focus, and I know these are going to take a little more time, right? The whole low-hanging fruit model, right? Where, you know what? I know motivation, self-motivation isn't a problem for me. So I'm definitely gonna I'm just gonna go with it, and work on the other, perhaps, you know, with the up and down income. How do I perhaps prioritize that, right? In terms of, I don't have to worry about self-motivation as much, but the balancing out the income, yeah, I need to really kind of pay attention to that and research some tricks and trades and ways, tips and tricks to get that done. So good point in terms of prioritizing, because ultimately all these things do kind of pop up. They will pop up at some point in the experience. So, all right. So that brings us to kind of the classifications, the different types, categories of self-employment, and the part-time side business. Now, this is something that you can definitely get going, while you're still employed. Freelancing, contracted work, gig work, that's also the type of thing you can do on the side. Micro businesses, those are the types we're talking about with, as I spoke of Martez Johnson, in terms of the business he did. He has a small business, and that's going to be great. Some people also call these lifestyle businesses, right? Where you make enough to meet your goals, your financial goals, and it's something you like. So it's a lifestyle business. That's another way people sometimes phrase micro business. And social enterprises and nonprofits. Nonprofits can just be a whole nother ball of wax, given that you have to have a board and there are certain things that you have to kind of build around that. But they're definitely an option, and social enterprises as well. So within these major categories, there's some you can do while you work for others, continue to work for others, maybe before you jump. And then some require, kind of more that full-time commitment when it happens. So as you get started, it's important to set goals. And as we've been around, we know the importance of goals in terms of like, we got to shoot for something, because if we're not shooting for something, then we're just doing the day by day by day, right? So as you think about this, think about what matters to you personally, professionally, and do this. Let's just do this. We'll take another minute or two and just think about the goals of what you want to achieve. Let's say you are 54, born the same year I am, and you figure you got, 10 to 15 years left before you really can hopefully step back and say, I'm not working anymore. Okay, maybe more like 12 to 15, right? And so what do you want to get done in that 12 to 15 years? Personally and professionally. Another nice thing with working for yourself is the flexibility to kind of do some things personally as well. And then, which kind of goes to the number 2 bullet point, how does working for yourself help you achieve those goals? So take another minute here. All right, cool. What kind of goals do people have? If you'd like to share, and anyone say live on an island? Yeah, we keep seeing those stories about people who work remotely, and then all of a sudden they get socked with a tax bill. Oof, that's not fun. But yeah, anyone want to share goals? Or if you don't want to share a specific goal, that's fine. How perhaps share how working for yourself can achieve that goal. What are the aspects of working for yourself that can help you achieve goals, personal or professional? Julie, making my own schedule. Yep. Flexible schedule from Fran, be able to be mobile, right? Yeah, and that's definitely a element nowadays, right? Where people are more accustomed to it, right? It's not a weird thing to say, hey, we'll check in via Zoom, we'll check in on the phone and go from there. D, your own schedule. Yeah, being able to really kind of say, what are my priorities in the day? And to my 2 a.m. question, if I don't do it until 2 a.m., but I know that and I know it'll get done, okay, that's okay, as long as it's not a client meeting. That might be a little tough at 2 a.m., but yeah, your own schedule. So a lot of that flexibility is the number 1 key. I've said that for years, so sounds good. All right, so while flexibility is key, money is definitely a big piece of. Oops. Where do we go? There we go. Money. Flexibility is key, but and Scott with the up and down income, strong one. Okay. Sense of autonomy from Jason. Yes, that's awesome too. Being able to step away from that stressful healthcare sucking corporate life, right? Sense of autonomy, setting your own schedule. Good stuff, Jason. So with that, you still need to, pay the bills. And ideally, ideally you're at a point where that, over the years, you've put some money aside that could help with, getting you over the initial hump. But ultimately, you really do need to kind of say, what do I need to make in a year? If you get the workbook, you'll see that set aside at least 30, the book says 30%. I always tell people factor around a minimum of a third to cover expenses usually paid for by an employer. Healthcare, taxes, your expenses, depending on what you're doing. And so really, as you look at it, and there is a calculator on the AARP website that will help with that, I have that link there. How much do you need to cover your expenses? And that's kind of as you look at this more as a lifestyle type of choice, okay, what do I need? Do I have mortgage or rent? Do I have, what are my food? What's my food bill? What's my, my vehicle, the total sense of owning my vehicle, et cetera. And all those things to kind of cover your expenses and what would it take to cover that? And then from that, you say, okay, well, how much work will I need to do to generate the income that you need? So in some ways, this is a couple ways to look at it. If you're more of a service, then you look at your hours, right? And what you'll charge by the hour and kind of, oh, okay, if I want to make, if I need to make $2,000, then how much work will it need for me to generate that income based on an hourly of whatever makes sense in the industry I'm getting into. And then you start to look at how is that realistic? If it's, between 25 and 35 hours, that's a good target because there will be additional hours that you spend on the business, not just doing the work for people, but on the business. If you start to get into the 40 to 50 hours, then you start to think, okay, what do I need to do differently? The way they phrase it is, will it require 7 days a week for you to do it? Hopefully not. But if it does, that's where, this money conversation you have with yourself really kind of helps define, okay, what can I do? What do I do? What do I need to do? And perhaps do I need to still have a part-time job, which can certainly come too. So real quick, Susan is here, and that's $2,500 a month, right? So 30,000 a year. So she has done that. So with that, that 33%, take her 30,000 times that 33%, 133, add the 33%, and she needs to gross 39,900, so 39,900. Give a shout if the math doesn't make sense, but that's really kind of ballpark where you start to say, okay, I'm looking at my expenses, $2,500 a month should work. Okay, that's 30 grand a year. Okay, how much do I need my business to make for me to cover that? So that's part of it too. In addition to the motivations and the considerations and the different pieces, you got to figure that side out too. Because if you don't make enough money through the business, then, as I say, perhaps it's a part-time job, perhaps it's doing the business differently to push it differently and make more revenue come in, or perhaps it's not now, or perhaps it's the part-time in addition to full-time. So all kind of part of the equation here. So considerations. This is the final. All right, let me make sure this is the final one for this section. Yeah, so look at these considerations and think through just quickly here today. Do these things make sense, or what makes the most sense for you as you think about possibility of self-employment seeming right for you? Okay. How are we feeling about that? Well, I feel like it's there's some good pieces in place. Anyone want to share text or pop on the screen? Jason, feeling good. Good. Anyone else? Okay, great. So with that, then this first part is about that, really kind of thinking through some of those issues, and a lot of what we discussed today, definitely definitely the type of thing where you take it and think about it, right? Like a lot of these are just ideas to really kind of put in your head, and ideas and concepts that really you do need to consider. And so, you know, how does it look in general, and how does it fit your personality, your life, the opportunities? So, and Julie, yes, starting a business, side business would be preferable. And that's the way a lot of folks end up doing it, right? If you're still employed and you start to say, hey, I'm going to start to do this on the side. And, you know, Fran mentioned that she had done that before, kind of had to reel it back. So now perhaps it's like, hey, let's prioritize. I don't know if I want to take as much on at work. I'm not going to take on that new assignment because I'm going to start doing this side gig and they won't know it, but I need to flesh this out for myself, right? A lot of this is really kind of looking out. Scott, not sure, feel another option, go in together with someone that has a funding angel. So partnerships are certainly part of any mix, any, you know, doing your own business. Just the partnership, be careful as you get in with really defining who's doing what and who's responsible for what and who owns what and who how things get split. Partnerships, going in with especially with people who have some money, that's good, but just remember the people with the money are going to want it back at some point, and a lot of times it's on their schedule. Even angels, who tend to have longer time frames, they still are going to say, okay, when do I get my money? So Scott, you're right. Certainly jump in with someone and say, hey, we're going to let me be a part of this. But there's definitely, you know, risks involved with that too. So, okay. So next up, we've got let's look into kind of what those ideas could be. Find your focus. Okay, right. Okay. So another quick poll, kind of like to throw these in to mix it up a little bit, right? So with regard to generating ideas, are you always thinking of new solutions, products or services? Is the type of thing where you're like, oh, I could do that better, or I could see something there working better, or constantly find ways to improve on things, rarely stray, or really don't think of new ideas? Feel free to throw this in the replies in the text box there. Chat. All right, anyone on sharing an idea? Fran, the first two, always thinking new solutions, product, service, constantly find ways to improve. Julie, find ways to improve on things I know. 1 and 2. Constantly about process improvement, first 2. Yeah, so this as lots of ideas, as a group that is inclined to doing your own thing, those are going to be most popular. If you are looking at this and say, you know what, I don't really do a lot from what I already know, There's definitely things you can do, but you might think of more just taking what you know and building on it, right? So that's just different. So it's just a different way to kind of think through how you think about things, because you put a business lens on them, right? If I'm always thinking of new solutions, products, or services, awesome. Then you probably have some ideas. I guess the challenge sometimes is to focus it, but those are good spots to really start from, because a lot of ideas then you kind of funnel them down to. So this is a page that it's in the workbook. It's broken out into 4 sections. So ideally, to really kind of think about yourself a little bit further than the previous section, you start to say, what do I like? What do I dislike? What are you really good at? And what do you need to work on? And I think that's their nice way of saying, what aren't you good at, right? So these are 4 sections that in the workbook. I don't have a PDF version of the workbook but it's basically it's a 4-panel sheet where you kind of break it out into your likes, your dislikes, you're good at, and you're not so good at, or as they say, what do you need to work on? So this is a good exercise to just kind of start to say, what do I like? What am I good at? And so I'm going to give you 2 minutes to kind of think that through. Okay. So as you have that kind of 4-panel sheet of what you like and your dislike, likes, dislikes, good at, not so good at, to put those results to work really is to kind of help you focus on what would be good spots, good places to think about doing a business, right? And it makes sense, but if you look at your likes and the things you're good at, those are really good areas to start in terms of saying, as they mentioned, I love gardening. Would I be a good part-time florist or a landscaper or a full-time florist or a floral designer? If you like it and you're good at it and it's rewarding for you. Whereas dislikes, things you aren't good at or need to work harder on. A big one for a lot of people is working with numbers, right? So this also kind of helps you think through what you might need help with if you do a business, right? So if you do love gardening and you do want to be a landscaper or a landscape designer, great. As you look at your dislikes and things that you aren't so good at or need to work on, those are really valuable in terms of informing how, as you push forward with your business, how you might need help. Again, if you're not a big numbers fan, you may need some help on the bookkeeping and accounting. And that's fine. At first, you'll still have to do some of that yourself. But as you say, I know that's a spot where not a strength, certainly looking for some help on that can be kind of that package, put it together, as they say. So does this make sense? We won't kind of get into everyone's likes and dislikes and what they're not good at and what they, but does this exercise work to kind of put it on paper or on a screen, or, you know, just think through splitting it out and saying, these are areas, because sometimes we get into jobs and we're good at it, but we don't like it, right? There are a lot of us who end up in doing roles, doing assignments, doing things that we're good at, but we don't like it. Or perhaps we did at one point and, you know, the thrill is gone. So I really want to do something else. So any questions around this exercise of really kind of splitting it out and giving yourself a good, honest look at the different aspects of what you like and don't like, and good and not look good? Okay, looks like that makes sense. Give a shout if you do have a question or if something pops up. And then, so as you once you come up with that, you know, that kind of that the sheet with all the different areas with the quadrants, right? And you start to think to yourself, okay, what kind of jobs come out of that? Kind of the whole gardener or landscape designer. What kind of jobs come out of that in terms of what I like and what I'm good at? What kind of jobs can I pull out of that? And then once you do that, you mesh that, you blend that with your goals and kind of say, okay, if this is a way I want to go, and if this is a business I want to pursue, then what you come up with a number, you know, 3, 4, 5 businesses that are possibilities. And then you really look at these kind of criteria that help you prioritize what would work for me. You know, number 4, what aligns best with my current lifestyle? If you're thinking landscape designer, but you're in a, you know, spot where maybe that's not, if you're in a community where that's not as much as valued, then how does that fit? You know, it could be, well, you know what, I have to go to different communities to do that, or not necessarily move, but just maybe different neighborhoods, et cetera. But that's kind of that's the process to go through and really start to say, I'm generating ideas, and then I'm really starting to say, what could work? What do I like? What's appealing to me? And ideally, once you get through this process, you come up with, as they like to say, your big idea. And your big idea then is something you want to pursue. And it's not necessarily jumping in with both feet right off the bat, but it's definitely something where you start to dig deeper and say, what does that mean? Again, to the landscape designer, that's what I want to do. I love working outside. I love working with my hands. I have a good aesthetic sense when it comes to, you know, outdoor landscape. And so what do I need to do that? And that's where you start to explore, hey, I'm going to talk to some folks who do it. I'm going to start to ask some prospective customers what they look for, what they value in this idea. So that would be kind of how you get to that sense of, what do I want to do? You know, some people get hung up on that. And so this helps you kind of step back and think through some elements of your life and your personality and knowing yourself, that you can say, okay, hey, this is definitely something I want to do. And then that leads us to number 3, making a plan. So what time are we? 4 o'clock. Let's let's get through this, and then we'll take a quick 5-minute break after this section 3, if everyone's cool with that. Okay, so making a plan. Another poll, and you can tell I try and be, you know, a little different, right? So you have a planning style. Are you really detail driven? Are you the type of person who stays way out of the weeds? Are you the type who can bounce between weeds and 10,000 feet? Or are you the type who's just, seat of your pants? What do we got in the room? Okay, we got some details. Julie with the detail oriented. Dee and Jason, more flexible, kind of bounce as needed. Greg as well. Kind of make it, Juliana, both flexible in details. Okay, good. Fran, all of the above, right? Sometimes it depends on the day. Good, okay. Anyone else? Cool. So all of the above is flexible. All of the above, probably what's going to suit you best. As you really take that idea, that business idea you have, and say, well, what do I do with this now? Then you really need to kind of, it's the whole plan to fail, fail to plan. People don't plan to fail, they fail to plan, right? Isn't that how it goes? So there's a number of different ways to approach this, and ultimately what you're really trying to get to and plan for are the 4 C's: the capacity, so the ability to thrive; the capital, which a lot of times really is there can be more of an upfront need, but this certainly can be ongoing as well; confidence, feeling well prepared, optimistic, and that really goes to having a good handle, feeling really good about having a good handle on what you do and what the business needs to do. And then the connections, and it's, as they say, for support and the client base. Those are the elements of connections that you need. So as you start to plan, okay, these are the things I really need to get covered to make a good go of this. So SWOT analysis, everybody knows and loves these, right? Swarming in the chat about SWOT analysis. However, it is a valuable, especially, it's one thing to do a SWOT analysis for a product or a process or a service for an employer that you kind of don't care about, or you're kind of tired of it, or you just like the thing's been in the market forever, and you're like, really, do we really need to discuss, the strengths and the weaknesses, because we know it's been there, right? So if you look at this through your own business lens, it's kind of exciting, because the strengths and the opportunities really allow you to think through, what can I do with this? Where can I take it? Both from yourself, but then also looking in the community and also talking to people in the community, prospective customers and such, and saying, hey, what do you think of this business? What do you think? What do you think of this problem that I'm looking to solve? And it's exciting because it's you, it's new for you, and it's a type of thing that you're passionate about. And even on the other side, the weaknesses and the threats, right? The weaknesses are being honest with yourself and saying, okay, these are areas I'm not strong, and that's okay. And these are areas where I probably shouldn't focus my business, but that's okay, because you know that you'll be focusing on a strength, right? So it's less about beating yourself up on the weaknesses and more about saying, okay, I just need to know the full picture here, right? And we probably all know that the strengths and weaknesses are the internal, right? That's you and your business, right? This is what I do well. This is what I need some help on, don't do well. Or as it says, I got limitations, right? And then the opportunities and the threats are the external. And these are critical to kind of say, as you start to say, okay, with these strengths and weaknesses, Now I'm going to go find, go externally and see what the external possibilities are and the environment I'm walking into, right? And again, what is exciting is this is all about you, and this is all about your business. And so even threats, I got to be realistic. There's regulations out there. If I want to start a coffee shop, what kind of city regulation, what kind of, municipal regulations do I have to have? Are there any state licenses or anything I need to do? But it's exciting. It's usually going to be your first time through this. So you're like, okay, this is cool. I know this. And so I just, as someone who's not a fan of SWOT analysis, again, when we do them for other people, yeah, they can be pretty dry and pretty boring and pretty much, hey, we already knew this. But when you do it for yourself, it's a great tool because it really helps you focus and think, okay, this is going to be a great opportunity, or do I need to tweak this opportunity? I think it's great. I might need to tweak it a bit, which is all good. So with that SWOT analysis, and as you really start to say, okay, this is where I see my business going, then you get into the business plans and the marketing plans. And I would add, and I forgot to add this on this slide, it's not in the book, but there are business canvases out there that are also very helpful, kind of preliminary business plan. The Strategizer group, they've developed a business canvas. And if you've never seen a business canvas, it takes you through, it runs you through all the key elements of the business at a high level and helps make sure that you think of all the different elements you need to think of. So I will pop one up in a second for a quick view, but it's really a foundation. It's kind of a starting point for business plan. And it's the type of thing where in a solid, if you know your business, if you know where you're going with it in terms of like the market, generally the market you're going after, you can sketch out an initial one in 15 minutes. And then the nice thing about the canvas is you can start to tweak it and modify it. And as you learn more about the business and learn more about the market, you can start to modify it, and it's flexible. And because it's also flexible and a one-pager, sometimes it's a lot easier it can be a lot easier to work with than a full-on business plan. Business plan being as we're described here, a full-on industry overview, plan to market, financial plan, budget, strategy, operating plan, SWOT analysis, all valuable work to do. But sometimes if you're really starting to get going, you just need kind of that high level piece, especially as you start to think or especially as you start to pursue and think about pursuing a business. And the business plan then, some people say do it first. I'm sorry if I'm advocating against what you believe. If you do that first, if you believe you do that first, great. Sometimes I think if you focus too much on the business plan, it kind of distracts you from doing a lot of the out in the market research. So anyway, so then there's the marketing plan as well. And that's really more specifically to how you're going to get that product out there, how you're going to get that service into the marketplace. Okay. And it includes the branding, pricing, competition, distribution, and success strategies. So let me stop sharing, but bear with me a second, and I'm going to pull up a canvas to show you all and just give a quick sense of what the canvas can do. Has anyone worked with a business canvas before? Okay, Fran's shaking no. Anyone in the text? Has anyone worked with a business canvas? No. Okay, let me show you this. This is from a group called Co-Starters, and it's a program that's offered through Commons on Champa, and it's a 10-week program that really kind of helps you work through all the different elements of starting up a business. I highly recommend it. If you get through this, and this is designed to be kind of a pre-co-starters workshop course where you really start to think through the initial idea. Co-starters really helps you take that idea and flesh it out and really build it out. And one of the ways it does it is through this canvas, which, as you see, I'm sharing the screen. At the heart of it is the customer. Who do you serve? Okay. And that customer has a problem. So there's debate as to whether you start with the customer, or you start with the problem. Regardless, those are the two key starts to any business. Okay. So a lot of people do start with the problem, and it's the customer. What's the problem the customer has? Some people say find a marketplace problem, and then who's that customer who applies. So those two can be interchangeable, but the key is that's where you start. And then you work through the alternatives, which are, how is your customer currently solving the problem? And the obvious one is, if I'm a coffee shop, if I want to start a coffee shop in a neighborhood that has none, one of the alternatives is the Starbucks that's two miles away, right? Let me see. Okay. So Tarina just started, I hope I pronounced that correctly, just started to revamp her business this way. So this is good. And Tarina, if you want to chime in, certainly do. But it kind of starts with that problem customer, works through the alternatives, which, as I was saying, it could either be the obvious or the not so obvious. If I want to start a coffee shop, them making their own coffee is actually an alternative. Customers making their own coffee and not buying it from me, that's an alternative, right? And then, so then it gets into the solution, the benefit, and the advantage in this center part here. And there are some business canvases that kind of lump this together and call it the value proposition. What I like about this one is it actually kind of helps you think through these different steps. It really does add up to a value proposition, but with this canvas, you do kind of look at the different elements of the value proposition with your solution, which is what you're going to do, the benefit of what that solution is going to offer, and then the advantage is why is it a valid business over the alternatives? Okay, so why would they go to your coffee shop instead of just making their own, instead of going to Starbucks? And then the message and the distribution, the message really gets to the marketing. What is your story? How does the customer hear it? So that's really kind of the delivery of the marketing. The distribution kind of definitely gets into marketing as well in some ways, just because how are they going to see it? How are they going to get it? How are you going to market it, but then also deliver to them? And then on the right-hand side and the base, this is where you get into the financials, right? On that far right side, there's the revenue revenue section. And that's where you really start to say, all right, good. I got to make money off this. How am I going to charge for it? What can I charge? What's out in the marketplace? Do some comparison. And also it does tie into distribution as well, because I think we know that if you distribute your product or service, in some ways, the revenue isn't as high. It's a trade-off, right? Like if you go out and make beer, and you can either sell it in your tap room or you can distribute it through a third party, the revenue you're going to get from the third party won't be as high, but they're getting it out more in a different way. So there's trade-offs as you look at that. But that's kind of that revenue side of what am I going to make per unit? What am I going to make per hour per product? But then also the distribution ties into that. And then the bottom part is the different financial parts of it, right? Your startup needs and your costs, your ongoing costs. So just wanted to share that this Canvas approach is a good way to kind of cover all the different elements of a business. It's one page. If you jot down 3, 4, 5, depending on what's relevant, bullet points, you get a good grasp of where I'm going with this business. And then you can tweak it too, right? You might go out and find out that the advantage isn't what you think. It's customers think it's different, and you can definitely tweak it. But that's where this Canvas is a good foundation for the business plan, which is a much deeper analysis, right? Much deeper analysis of the business. And then the marketing plan is a much deeper marketing plan than what's in the Canvas. But if you've thought through those pieces, all those pieces, and really kind of flowed through and considered all of them, then you have a good foundation for the marketing plan going forward. So, any questions on Canvas or business plans, those types of things? Okay. All right, 2 more slides and we'll take a quick break. Let's see. So, I got to share my screen, right? Okay. So, capital. You got to have money to make money. The good news is, if you're hustling your own business, you don't always need a crap ton of money to make money. Okay. And it definitely depends on the type of business you are looking to pursue. But as the research AARP brings up, is 80% of startups don't need external funding. And that's because there are a lot of frankly, a lot of service businesses don't have a lot of startup needs. They have some ongoing needs, but if you have a service business, there are a lot of ways where you can actually start making money and cover costs right off the bat. Now, if you are going to do a coffee shop, you will have more startup costs. That's true. And that's where you start to need to pursue money to get it going. But as described here, there's personal funds, friends and family, loans. Loans can be a little tricky because banks typically won't give loans for businesses that are younger than 2 years. They like to see 2 years of financials for a business before they even think about it. At the same time, there are community banks, there are credit unions, and there are nonprofit lending sources. Colorado Lending Source and Colorado Enterprise Fund are 2 that are nonprofits that can help with those with more towards startup, early stage business type of funding. So a traditional bank not going to be a great resource usually, and those other sources can be the community minded. Definitely, if you are starting a business, looking to start a business in a community as well, right? So if a credit union serves a community and that's where you're getting going and that's who you're going to serve, they could be very welcoming. So definitely conversations to have. They mentioned crowdsourcing. So crowd lending websites, so those kind of like microfinance as well. Those are certainly options. The lending to some degree, but definitely crowdfunding websites, that takes a lot of work to get it going and a lot of work to sustain it. And I've seen Denver Startup Week presentations about crowdfunding, and people say it's your full-time job. So to do it well and to do it right and to get the most success or have the highest likelihood of success. And with a crowdfunding campaign, the last thing you want to do is say, I need to raise 25 grand, $5,327.42 pops in up, and you are sitting there saying, I don't know what to do with that amount. So I caution on the crowdsourcing options, not because they're not viable, but just because I think sometimes people toss those out there as totally viable. and they aren't always totally viable. So those are to be careful with. Usually they're better with more mass market type of things where you can actually say, hey, fund us. We're going to get this first batch done and you get one of them, right? So it's kind of that, they get some reward out of that. Anyone want to share anything on the financing side? Let's see. Oh, Scott, sorry, I just saw this. Is there a cost to co-starters program through Commons on Champa? There is a modest cost. I don't know what it is right now, but there is a modest cost, and it's as much the concept that if you pay something, you'll keep going if it's flat out free. Because it's a cohort-based program. So you get 12 to 15 people and you go through the 10 weeks together. And so really the key is everybody's there every week. So yes, Scott, there is a cost to co-starters. It's on the Commons on Champa site for more information. I think I might have that link later in this presentation. Yeah, but it is modest. So again, any questions, issues, thoughts, experiences with funding? Am I wrong about crowdsourcing? If I'm wrong, feel free to say I'm wrong, and it's an awesome, easy way to make money. Okay. One thing to be careful of is avoiding financial mistakes. And the two that AARP flags immediately are credit cards and retirement savings. Credit cards are easy. Credit cards, if well managed, can make it happen. But given the high interest rate on them, can be problematic. And of course, we've heard stories about successful businesses that floated on credit cards. That's great. I'd hate to see what their interest payments were, right? And that's money out the door. That's an expense. So it's one thing to say, I'm going to go buy a new, desktop for running the entire business through the desktop, and it's going to cost me $2,000, and I'm going to put that on a credit card. That's one thing. Saying I'm going to finance an entire, product run for $25,000. That's where things can be problematic, because then you really start to see how the interest charges build up. And especially if you develop a product that's going to take some time to sell and collect money, et cetera. So, and then the retirement savings. So this is actually one drawback to having life experience like we have. Wait, the drawback isn't that we hopefully have a good chunk of money in retirement savings. The drawback is if we tap it and use it, we don't have as much time to make it up. So this is kind of being very careful that if you tap that and you can't make it up, and even if you make it up in the business, would you put it back into that retirement savings? That's where you need to be careful. Any other financial mistakes that anyone's seen, heard, thought about, wishes to warn us all about? None. Okay. All right. That's good, but do look out for them, because finances, as we said earlier, you need to make enough to make this work, and be careful with that. And if you're doing that in ways that hurt you down the road, that's not advantageous. So, okay. So, Greg, don't forget to pay yourself. Very good point. This one is probably one of the tougher lessons people learn, because they get in, they kind of jump into they jump into their business and everything goes into the business. Greg's right. You got to pay yourself. So carve that out. Make sure it's carved out. Now you got to be flexible. You aren't going to be able to pay yourself probably $100,000 a year right off the bat. Be realistic and be fair about it. But if you're paying yourself something, carving out money for you, income for you, and putting it to your personal account, separate from your business account. And that's one of those things where when you start a business, you definitely should have separate accounts. Oh, thank you, Dee, for backing me up there. Remember, you and your business are separate entities. Yes. So when you have the different accounts, the different checking accounts, or bank accounts, where you set one up for your business and it's separate from your personal. And so as you carve out a bit to pay yourself, that goes over into the personal, and that stays personal. Ideally, you never let those cross except when those payments to you happen, right? Your payroll happens. So that's the pay yourself piece, right? Where if you're paying yourself something, then you're in that habit, you kind of have that payroll, you get that payroll muscle memory of, okay, 1st and 15th, I'm going to pay myself this next 6 months, I'm going to pay myself this. After 6 months, you assess and say, okay, that's a good amount. Maybe I bump it up. Maybe I need to tweak it a bit, but you always get that going. So it's always making sure that your personal has the money. The D, really good point. And this is where I'm going to talk a bit about the ups and downs of income. The separate entities, the one nice thing about, not the one nice thing, but a nice thing of having a separate bank account for the business is all the money flows into there. That's the business. You carve out the piece for your personal income. The business, if you are in a business that, let's say it grosses between 2,000 and 10,000 a month, okay? And you hit, let's see, January hits, it's a slow month, you gross 2,000. February is good, 5,000. March is awesome, so it's 10. So you got the 2, the 5, and the 10. If all that money goes into the business account and you're carving off 2,000 a month for your personal, that doesn't depend on how much money is coming into the business. That the money that's coming into the business is that helps it ride out the ups and downs. Okay, so it's, I hope I'm explaining this clearly, because this has helped me a lot. Because I have a business that definitely has highs and lows in terms of revenue months, and it all goes into the business, and I get out my income no matter what, as long as I'm doing well, which for a number of years, knock on wood, we've been doing that, right? But my X amount per month is not dependent on how much is coming into the business, because what's coming into the business is filling that bank account, and it's not like it's going right into my personal account. So it's not like we got to cut back on groceries because we only made $2,000 this month. No, my income has been the $2,000. And the business, because it made, again, to my initial math there, it was 17 between January, February, and March. So that 17 is there. So if I'm pulling, simple number, $2,000 a month, that's coming out and going in there no matter what's in the business. And because it's separate, I don't have to stress about that. Does that make sense? Am I think, okay. Fran's nodding. If someone needs a little more on that, I feel like yeah, it does. Tarina, okay. It's one of those where, okay. So anyway, keeping them separate is so critical, because then the business handles the expenses too. So that's where we, thank you, Dee, for making sense. And that's also where we smooth out the ups and downs. The ups and downs, you stress on the business side for the ups and downs, but on the personal side, you're like, okay, I got myself covered. We're good. I have that figured out because I have a good, reasonable thing. So, cool. Okay. So I just suggested a break. Do we want to take a 5-minute break? Or do we want to keep going?
Well, I just want to say one thing. I don't know if I'm supposed to be doing this.
Sure.
One mistake that I did make financially was not planning for my taxes. And making sure that you're planning for, those those expenses, like monthly expenses. Because I have several businesses. One of them was to my, my periodic report, not planning for that. And then I get a check and then I'm trying to go open up a bank account and it's like, oh, your certificate of good standing is not, and it was just like that big mistake. It's just your taxes and just those little odds and end little pieces that you need to be making sure that you have allotted a certain amount of money to be able to say, okay, well, if I don't have it, and not just relying solely on your income that you're getting from your business. So it's kind of like budgeting to have like this little stash that, like, how much is it going to cost for my periodic report, and, how much should I save for my taxes? It's just little mistakes that just are like, oh, I hate that I did this. And it kind of makes you feel like you regret being in business, but it's like those steps that it's like, you live and learn, and here we are. So that's one thing I will say is just make sure you have some kind of cushion to be able to pay for, all of those little things.
Yeah. No, that's thank you, Trina. That's really good observation. And I know you came in a little late, kind of early in this to talk about kind of figure out what you need and then really add 33% to that, right? So if you think you need, if you calculate that your expenses, et cetera, for what you need is 30 multiplied by 133%. So it's like 39.9. So if you're not grossing basically 40 grand, you're not going to be able to fulfill that, right? And that includes, like you say, the taxes and the other pieces. So really good. I'm glad it worked out well for you in the long run. But I mean, but as you say, it's one of those lessons. And so with different programs, hopefully they can and observations like that kind of help people think, okay, all right, I'm jumping into this. What do I need to do it smarter? So thank you for that. Okay, no big opinion. D, I feel like we need small business accounting and finance 101. And Greg, I will press on. Thank you. So D, the one thing with the co-starters program I mentioned was there's a pretty good I think it's now 2 weeks that really gets into kind of how to run the books. And when I facilitate those courses, I like to say that we're going to lock the doors because so many people get nervous about the book numbers, but they're critical and it helps. Okay. And it just helps with that. So there, yes, some 101, some basics are there. But at the same time, it's it helps you get it done, right? As Trina found with her experience of, okay, got to get it done. Cool. Okay. So I am next piece is watch out for trouble. And as this course has been designed by the AARP Foundation, which is really about helping folks over 50 from a whole variety of backgrounds and approaches. There can be missteps that are taken as you jump off into doing your own thing, and some of them are scams because, as we've kind of mentioned, there are times where you're going to be saying, all right, I need to supplement this income. I have this business going and I either need to supplement it temporarily or permanent or somewhat longer term. But you got to be careful of scams. So my little, which of these is likely a scam? Oops, my scams went away. There we go. Okay. Does everyone like them? Call us back within 24 hours. Send $49.99. Okay. Yes, they all are. There we go. Thank you. So the common types of scams that you need to look out for are they come in the main two categories of work from home and tax scams. And I've taught this course a handful of times through Commons on Champa, and I'm kind of surprised every time I've had someone who raises their hand and says, I fell for one of these. And so it happens. And they seem like they are good, even though we have our radar on and our, protecting, keeping ourselves from such things, from scams, et cetera. They do happen. And especially when you've left the comfort of a full-time job or corporate gig or whatever you want to call it, and you're doing your own thing and you kind of need some cash. Okay, it does happen. And so you start to look around. So just the work from home scams, 95% are fake. And that's even, I believe, including the, not including work from home where you are doing gig work for bona fide clients that you know. So just some elements of some do's and some don'ts to keep an eye out for. And probably the biggest one on the don'ts, I say, is the red flags, right? Don't ignore those. If something doesn't smell right, check it out. If something seems too good to be true, check it out. Even if they say, you could be a mystery shopper. Mystery shopping exists, but usually a better way to do that is approach them and say, how do I become one? Do your approach. Yeah. And then there are the tax scams. And little example here of getting a phone call from the IRS. He owes a bunch of taxes. I think we've heard a number of these, but some of them can be pretty good. And so, especially if you're kind of feeling strapped and up against it, and this business is kind of in that point where like the excitement is worn off and you're kind of like, okay, I need to get to that point. And there's a bit of a chasm where the excitement it's not as fresh, but at the same time you believe in it and you know that the future is gonna, sure, Juliana, thank you. But I need to kind of get through this little chasm. Sometimes we get a little strapped. And so it's with the IRS, with the tax scams, just be careful. Frankly, what it comes down to is the IRS doesn't really force the issue. And so if you have questions, always just say, who can I contact? Or as they say, threaten to bring in the police. So any insights, other insights on scams or things to just be careful of? Phishing scams. Yes, Greg brings up phishing scams totally. And they can do a really, really good job at looking real, right? And so as someone who's been independent for a number of years, that can be a tough one, because you can get a subject line that's very, very appealing or very relevant, perhaps even more accurately, more relevant to what I do. And you definitely have to say, I need to check that. And so I like to hover over the sender and see if the address, like some browsers, like if you hover over, it'll tell you who's actually sent it. And then also different ways where you can preview it and see that they've misspelled my name, which is common, but when they spell it really funny ways, it's always fun. So anyway, yes, phishing scams are definitely part of that, and they encompass work from home and tax and everything else. So thanks, Greg, for sharing that. Any other things to caution? Okay. Taxes, and this goes a little bit to D, say, let me call back. Yep, that's a very good one for the callers. Yeah. And I like to take that number and then look at, do a quick search on it and see if it's valid or if it's, problematic with other people. So good point, D, thank you. Okay, so quick bit on taxes, Tarina. You do need to keep these in mind, because If you're late, they'll hit you with the penalty with late penalties in addition to interest, et cetera. And so you've got your income tax, which is going to be that on that money that you're paying yourself out of your company. Although if you're a sole proprietor, it's all the money you make. So you still should have it set up separately. But when you file your tax return, if you're a sole proprietor, it will actually, like, all the money that comes in, it's like it's your revenue. So that's the income. So it's actually a little bit different than just the money that you're paying, the income you're paying yourself out of the company, which when you get incorporated, that's when it becomes more like I send myself a W-2 at the end of the year. But if it's sole proprietor, then it's the IRS says it's all one mess, one collection of cash for you. Self-employment tax is going to be the other side of that. So and sales taxes on if you sell products and have to, you know, a lot are online as well in terms of different kind of retail. I added, as you might be able to tell by the slightly different red hue, tax estimate payments are a big help here, because if you pay the government, especially the IRS, but also the state of Colorado, if you pay them as you go, they are much nicer to you. They understand that you are really, you know, you understand that you will owe taxes. So quarterly payments, ask your accountant if you've not paid these in the past, because it's actually a pretty simple form, and it's January 15, April 15, June 15, and September 15. Those are the quarterly dates that estimates are due, and your accountant, or actually what do you like, Quicken and other probably other program, I know Quicken, but other programs too, they'll help calculate that for you, so you can stay on top of it too if you do that yourself. But basically, with those 4 dates, you're sending the government, the IRS and the state taxes, and it's especially important if you get 1099s, if you do gig work, if you do contract work where they don't take the taxes out, because the government's going to still want the taxes. So those are kind of that's kind of the high level tax piece as you look at this. And one nice thing about early stage startups and early stage businesses, there are a lot of resources out there, and accountants and tax focused folks are among those who can be the most helpful. They'll give you, you know, a half hour of their time and kind of help you understand what you need to look at and what you need to look for. Those are really good resources too. So any thoughts, questions, experiences with taxes? And then the sole proprietorship, and again, it depends on the business and what kind of liability exposure you want to have. But I actually ran my current consulting business was sole proprietor for 10 years, and then I switched to incorporated S Corp in 2010. And so now I actually pay myself a salary. Prior to that, the government just said, okay, what did your business collect? That's your income. I still, as I say, kept it separate. So I carved out money for me, but the IRS treated it all as my income. Whereas now with the incorporation, I actually have to file a business tax return for the S Corp, and then an income tax return, which reflects the W-2 that comes from the business. So. Okay. Oh, I just said this, didn't I? They have a couple of AARP things, a couple of resources that they have, IRS. As I said, there are a lot of tools out there, a lot of resources. Do double kind of back to the scam thing. Make sure they're good, valid resources, good, valid organizations that are putting those resources out there. And again, locally, and I will touch on the local resource, especially through Commons on Champa. You can call them up. SCORE is another one, and I will have that too. SCORE is the Service Corps of Retired Executives. They can help with, especially on the business side. But there's a lot of help out there. So take the help, get it, work with it, and protect yourself on the tax side. So find support. This is the final section of our run here. There are national resources, and there's Commons on Champa, which is local, which is at 13th and Champa. If you've never been there, they have a shared workspace. Excuse me. They offer up a shared workspace that anyone can use. And they've got free Wi-Fi, and they also offer different courses. They do offer, as I said, course starters. Occasionally we do offer this AARP program as well. Other programs too. It's really a great resource in terms of a lot of people stepping up. They also know people. So that's where local resources are great, where you can access local resources. On the national side, we got the Small Business Administration, the SBA.gov, a lot of good resources there. And they refer to as national mentors. Actually, mentors are even more valuable locally, I would contend, because then you can meet with them and pick their brain as they go through. And there are other, let's see. Check. I think if I don't have the score link in a couple slides, then bug me for that, and we'll make sure we call that out too. So there's also, as you move forward and say, this is really something I want to pursue, and I have an idea and I kind of work through the plan, then you get to networking. And networking for your business is different than when you work for someone else, because it goes back to my initial question of, can you sell, right? And if you sell to people, whoever you're selling to, if you have some kind of connection, that just makes it a so much warmer connection, lead, sale, whatever you want to phrase it. So as you start to say, as you jump off and do your thing, your own thing, tell everybody about it, tell everyone you know about it. And some people hesitate and say, well, they'll find out. Nope, they won't find out. That's on you to share, get the word out. And remember, you know, the old commercial of they'll tell two friends, and then they'll tell two friends, and so on and so on and so on. That's what you're shooting for. That doesn't always happen like the shampoo commercial did. However, it will build on that, especially as you get the word out, meet more people, get that out. And they do mention also volunteering, volunteer positions at organizations. I would just caution against doing too much volunteering. If you're unless that's part of your overall goals, right? If you say, I want to volunteer 20 hours a week and do create a business that has me work 20 hours a week, that's one of your goals. But there are people who can volunteer too much and don't get as much benefit as they on the business side. So it's kind of a distinction there, right? As I said initially, you distinguish between your business networking, your business volunteering, your business related volunteering, and your personal networking and your personal volunteering. So any suggestions on networking? Okay. All right. The book, when was this book published? So this booklet was published in 2016. So the tech terms, many of these we do know. Really, the main thing I want to share on this is when it comes to the social platforms, the social media, the Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, et cetera, when it comes to your business, whatever you do personally is still your personal deal, right? For the business, I would contend that you find the one that makes the most sense and stick with that. Because to do it well, it will take some time. And to do it well and actually make it, you know, worth your while and get some return on what you invest in it, time and resources, you do want to do it well, and you do want to make sure it's hitting the right kind of audience you want. A lot of people suddenly have found TikTok to be quite entertaining, but then there are some businesses that have found that TikTok is a way to build some business as well. If you're shooting for a demographic that is on TikTok a lot, and you can do it well, if you can really be creative and unique and stand out and make people, spread your videos, your TikToks all over, awesome. If you can't, it might not be for you. If it doesn't apply to your business, it might not be for you. Again, personally, that's your, turn off the business. I'm doing personal. But in terms of the business, because occasionally I still do get folks who say, okay, well, I've got to do Twitter, and I've got to do Instagram, and I got to do LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is your personal, not your personal, is your professional, professional person. So that makes sense. But Twitter, Instagram, who are you reaching on those? How are you reaching them? How engaged are you? How are the people who do that well? How often are they on, and how much do they interact on that site? So those are the types of things you look at with the social side of things. So any questions or insights on that? Certainly some of you may have insights on that. Okay. Let's see. I didn't have score in here. Okay. Look that up in a second. So taking actions, some different national, online and national resources. Oops. I was going to, what I'm going to do is copy and paste those in the text in the chat. Don't worry, getting there, getting there. Okay, I'm getting there. Okay, any questions? I'm pasting those links, trying to paste those links. Any questions or insights that you've had, or insights that came up as we went through this? It's not liking me. Okay. I'll put this back up. Okay, so Association of Enterprise Opportunity is aeoworks.org. SBA is sba.gov. Better Business Bureau is bbb.org. AARP Foundation is aarpfoundation.org. And Hello Alice, helloalice.com, helping folks as well. And then last but not least, I said I would get the score, and yeah, score is a .org. So score, SCORE.org. That would be that tends to be business mentoring from, a lot of times you get retired corporate execs, but they do have a lot of good insights as well. So that's another one, score.org, in addition to those others. So great. Well, that's what I have for our workshop here today. I appreciate you all sticking around, and I definitely appreciate all the input and the feedback and the thoughts. Anyone had the other? Thank you, Greg. Appreciate that. Thank you, Dee. And again, appreciate all of you coming. And let me just put yeah, okay. I'm just rambling. Okay, so thank you all. If you have any questions, feel free to connect with me through LinkedIn. Kirby, Kerby, Myers, Meyers, and you'll find me there. We can connect there. And this is great. So if anyone has anything else, let me know. But otherwise, I appreciate the thanks and I appreciate all your time and the comments and joining in and hope you got some stuff to take away as you start to say, okay, what's my next step? Is working for myself part of it? If it is, awesome. I hope we gave you some good things to think about. So thanks much, everyone.
Thanks, Kirby.
Take care.